I reviewed Remette Peregrine Falcon a while ago, and a couple new versions came out recently, so I'd like to revisit the review. At the time, I could not recommend this knife to my viewers because of this. Lock fails. Strike number 2. Another fail, and I'm done with this one. When I grip the knife hard, where my knuckle on the thumb ends up is right on this button, so I can completely compress it, and the knife will unlock. So if I'm doing something hard and squeezing the knife, it will unlock. I would have planned to have a sort of a slide here and a detent underneath and make this piece able to move forward and lock the button. It came to my attention that Remette addressed the issues that I talked about in that video, so I went ahead and I purchased the newer version of the Peregrine Falcon. And there's one more thing. Today we're going to revisit the hardness test as well. And so here's the original Peregrine Falcon. Sorry about that. So before I open this Pandora's box, I'd like to compare it to a couple other knives in the same genre. This is a Bastide Raccoon with a pivot lock. I don't know if that's what they call it. Roughly the same size knife. Very similar in materials. Bastide has M390 as well, so very similar titanium. I think Peregrine Falcon is a little more ornate and quite visually appealing, although I do also like that milling on the handle on the Bastide. And here's a Riat that was reasonably priced Riat for a difference, and it also has a pivot lock and a safety. And here's why Riat engineers opted for the safety, because if I whack this guy, it unlocks. You can see that. Hold on. And I don't even have to hit it very hard in the old video. And here's the Riat, and it suffers from the same affliction actually, because if I hit it hard enough, it will close. And probably that's why they introduced the safety. They probably were also concerned about unlocking when gripping the knife. And obviously all of these knives will have this issue, because when you grip it, it will unlock because of where your thumb ends up. Let's open the box and pull out the later version. It's a tricky box to figure out, at least to me. You're like, oh, what? All right, so here it is. Let me put them side by side. The version I got has a darker titanium finish, but it's also smoother. It's polished and then, I guess, heated up or anodized, and it is a little darker. And then the outlines are highlighted with a high polish, which is kind of cool looking. I always thought this one was one of the better looking knives that came out. It has slots for iridescent inserts here, but I don't swing that way. They added this safety. So they added it not exactly the way I suggested. I thought this whole beautiful piece is serving only, it creates good looks, but it could be actually part of the functional solution. What I was trying to say is, if you could make it so that it slides just a little bit forward and there's some kind of feature that locks against this pivot, then you probably would achieve the form and function Zen. They also opened up the frame here on the show side to give a better access, so that somebody, I guess, okay, I need to unlock it first. Somebody can actually use it like a regular liner lock, which was another one of my suggestions here. It's basically a regular liner lock, as you can see here. So if they would have happened to make a cutout here for your thumb, then this would be a redundant mechanism. And obviously they now came to the same conclusion. 4.8 ounces 4.8 ounces, so it didn't add any weight. And for comparison, here's the Bastide Raccoon, 4.7 ounces, so 1/10 of an ounce less. And here's the Remette, and it weighs 0.8 ounces less than the Peregrine Falcon. Question is, did they fix the main issue without the safety engaged? Okay, that feels more robust, but I will still throw it on a hype smasher just to see what happens. Yeah, definitely better as compared to this. Here's the hype smasher setup. As you can see, the knife is clamped semi-rigidly, and the reason I had to move it out so far is so that the rubber stem here does not engage the liner lock part in the cutout there. In other words, I don't want to artificially lock it. The knife itself has a little bit of movement, just as it would in your hand. And of course, the hype smasher is a modified arbor press. All right, so as you can see, the knife is recessed in that opening here, so I need to make sure I get the correct distance for the strike. It needs to be 6 inches. So now I'm going to mark where that height is. Let me mark so you can see it. We can see it on both sides right there. And that's the level I'm going to raise the ram to. Here you go. And this way we are sure we get 6 inches falling distance. Here we go. Okay, the knife did not unlock. Let's double check the function of the lock. The lock still functions. The safety is not engaged, as you can see. See, it freely opens. If the safety was engaged, it wouldn't have. All right, let's do it one more time. And no unlock this time either. And for the third and final time. Okay, let's move this out of the way. And take the knife out, check the function. As you can see, it flicks open and close. The centering has not changed. No blade play opened up. No up and down play. Let's engage the safety. The safety is still functional. I tell you what, folks, they definitely fixed it. And because it didn't unlock on the hype smash, I'm going to say that this safety is predominantly there to prevent you from unlocking it with your thumb, like so. Good job. Next, we're going to use this carpenter compass to determine how resilient the knife is. And for that, I'm tightening it into the hardwood block, making sure it's as rigid as I can make it. And the angle is set to 15 degrees on the compass there. So I'm going to apply torque in this direction until I reach this angle. I'm going to do it 3 times. This actually exceeds the mil-spec requirement for testing knives by 6 degrees, and they only do it once. As you can see, so far so good. And now I'm going to do the twist test. This handle is both thick and broad, so I can exert an immense amount of torque, which in turn puts all the internal components under the immense amount of stress. Let's see the function, the centering. It seems to be functioning good, centered right on. I can flick it open, close it. Everything seems to be as good as new. Looking for any bending in the blade, and to do that I am going to put it on this block, and I am pressing it down and looking and listening for any evidence of change in the tip's geometry. I see none. I just realized that they fixed another major finding from other YouTubers, the fact that now they introduced the socket for a T8 driver bit as opposed to hand tightening it before, and that is to prevent accidental unscrewing of the push button. So now you can torque it and it will not come out. Trying to remember how to disassemble it. I think I need a special tool for that, and I think I made one for the first video. Oh great, I found it. Okay, this is just a flat screwdriver bit, a 1/4 inch drive, that I cut out a U shape in to create these two fingers, which will engage the split slot on the screw head of the pivot screw. And it's torqued, but not Loctited. I noticed they don't apply a lot of Loctite, they just prefer to torque the screws properly. There are a couple of different schools of thought on that. I personally would add a light, non-permanent Loctite, but I digress because I'm trying to kill the air time while I'm messing with the bit, the modified screwdriver bit. I guess it would be too easy to grab the straight handle. Here you go. Eventually, one of these days, I'll pull this pivot out. Here it is, a pretty interesting component. This knife does not lack complexity. I have to say, it probably has more parts than any other non-auto folder that I've ever seen. The next step is to remove the scale from the show side in order to remove the blade. And the reason I'm taking the blade off of the knife is obvious. I'm going to do the hardness test. As you can see, it runs on multi-row bearings. They're ceramic bearings with the nylon race. I am not going to do the full disassembly because I'm trying to save us some time so we can all enjoy this. The hardness test on the proper benchtop Rockwell tester. Before I start any of my hardness tests, I verify the calibration of my tester using this independently certified NIST compliant test block. It's rated to 62 HRC. The standard for Rockwell testers allows repeatability error of plus or minus 0.5 HRC and overall error of plus or minus 1 HRC. This device comes to 62.2, so I'm well within this calibration, and now I'm ready to test the blade. I hope you notice the footage is accelerated 2x to save you some time, but it's continuous and uninterrupted so that you know I am not playing any games here and there's nothing going on behind the camera. I'm not splicing anything in. Everything is on up and up. All right, here comes the first poke result. It's 63.2. It's a great hardness for MagnaCut, so good job. Wait a second. Wait a second. This is not MagnaCut. What am I saying? This is M390. How can it be? 63.2 on M390. Will the second poke confirm this? Let's see. Nope, it's 61.9, which is still very respectable for M390 steel. And that's why I say this in every video. It's very important to test more than once, and it's still not an industry standard method because for that I would need 5 samples. 62.6. What did Remette do? All right, I did 3 pokes as I normally do, but because one was so far out, I'm going to test it the 4th time. While we wait for that, don't forget to hit the like, and also don't forget to make sure that your notification bell for my channel is activated, otherwise you might miss my next masterpiece. 62.7. All right, the world is starting to make sense again. The first one was an outlier. That said, I'm going to recheck the calibration here. But if it comes the same as before, I will call the range 61.5 to 63 HRC. What's interesting, on their website, Remette claims 59 to 61 HRC. At 62.5 HRC, we're half a point high. Draw your own conclusions. Next, we are going to get into the edge quality and edge geometry. I'm using my USB microscope camera. Starting with the tip, to me, tip informs how experienced the sharpener was. And I would call this one as middle of the road. There's a little bit of a rounding off at the tip. And they left just a slight amount of burr that periodically you see here is like a shiny line at the apex. The grind angle was varying a little bit through the blade as well. But all in all, I would say that's definitely 6 to 7 out of 10 sharpening. I will measure the thickness behind the edge next to let us know how slicey this blade will be once the burr is removed. And here's the sort of pseudo 3D look at the apex. I'm sorry I left a little bit of a dirt on the blade, but clearly you can distinguish the difference between the dirt and the apex. Let's see if, as is, out the box it will cut the paper towel. That's my normal test. It bites in. Let's see. Yeah. So we got some cutting going on there. Let's see if it'll follow through. You can definitely see that it needs a little bit of stropping. Let's do that. For stropping, I'm using TechDiamond paste on a leather strops that are made in Ukraine. They're Beavercraft. So I have 1,500, 3,000, 3,000 again, and 5,000 on this side. Those are high quality strops. I can definitely recommend those. So I'm going to start with a rougher compound. See what I just did? Let's put it. Yeah. That just, you know, came automatically because most of us aren't used to pivot locks like this. So we automatically place fingers there or thumbs. That's just a natural point for something like that. Now, remember, when you're stropping a tanto-shaped blade, it's like doing two blades. As you can see, I'm not counting how many strokes I do. Let me go to the finer side now. Actually, I'm going to do 3,000 on the rough side of this strop to continue removing burr. And then we'll do the cut test, and after that look at it under the microscope to see if my efforts yielded any fruit. And I'm going to do the fine side on this. And what I like, the leather is such a high quality on the finer side that any remaining burr and striations will immediately show as a scratch pattern, just as you saw me. See, that's the tanto point making that scratch. So I don't see any. I'll just keep going for a couple more strokes. In my book, the rule number 1 for stropping, there's no rules in stropping. I don't count how many strokes I made. I go by the feel, the sheen of the leather. It will tell you everything you need to know. You just have to keep your eyes open and have a feel for it. So Let's see. And I'm going to go to the 5000, the finest grit that I have here. Yeah. Anyway, everything you need to know is here. The pressure I'm applying is about a ball pen on the, or even a felt pen, like light pressure felt pen on paper. And hopefully I don't need to hone it on a ceramic stone. Hopefully that burr wasn't too stubborn. And that hardness, I don't expect it to be. I expect it to weaken and pop right off. Let me wipe it clean and try another paper towel here. I can definitely feel the difference. Not a huge difference, but it's there. Let's do the... Yeah, definitely on a follow through. Let's get it in there. And let's see, let's do a little more. Yeah, I might need to... Yeah, it's definitely better. That definitely helped. See, I'm doing straight cuts. It bites in nicely. But I feel like, let's see, what's the behind the edge thickness here? $18 to $19 thou. Yeah, I'll stick to it. 18 to 19,000 thick behind the edge, which should make it rather slicey, as you already probably know. And so as you can see under the microscope, the stropping was a little less effective than I expected. There's still a significant amount of radius at the apex, so potentially I have to throw it on a fixed angle sharpener and also see if I can reduce the edge angle. I have to test the Y clamp that I purchased for Zarilk Gen 3, which will also work on TS Prof Cadet, but that's a topic for a separate video.